One more thing I want to talk about here. This is about RFK. So, we are getting ready for another presidential election. So be ready. It's about to start getting really crazy once again, like it does every 4 years. We have an incumbent Democrat, Joe Biden, which means that Joe Biden is going to get the presidential nominee from the Democratic Party again. It's kind of a given at this point. You rarely see a president who gets primaried, but Joe Biden has a couple of primary challengers, which I don't know why you would want to run against an incumbent president in the primary. I can't name any time ever that I can remember where an incumbent president was primaried. I don't know. Has it happened in the past? Maybe it has. I'm not going to bother looking it up right now. But that apparently doesn't stop people. So there are a couple of primary challengers to Joe Biden. Cornel West is one. There's another senator woman, I can't remember her name, who's also who is challenging him. One of the more interesting challengers is, of course, RFK Jr. And I want to take this time to share with you the reasons why I am not going to vote for RFK Jr. I will never vote for RFK Jr. because RFK Jr. is a conspiracy-addled piece of shit, as far as I'm concerned. First off, the guy seems to be bankrolled by Republicans. And I want to show you this link here. Let's go ahead and turn on my window here. I want to show you this link. This is from The Guardian. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign bankrolled by Republican mega donor. Super PAC affiliated with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist running for president as a Democrat, owes half its cash to a longtime Republican mega donor and Trump backer, according to campaign finance reports filed on Monday. The group, American Values 2024, reported receiving $5 million from Timothy Mellon, a wealthy businessman from Wyoming, according to NBC News and Politico. It registered with the Federal Election Commission, FEC, in April, days before the Kennedy officially launched his campaign, blah, blah, blah. Mellon, 81, is the grandson of Andrew Mellon, former U.S. Treasury Secretary who made his fortune in banking. The Texas Tribune reported that Mellon, a top donor to Donald Trump's 2020 re-election efforts, supported controversial immigration laws and responsible for 98% of contributions to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's fund to build the stupid fucking border wall. Mellon, who twice gave $10 million to the Trump-aligned America First Action PAC in 2020, also used racist stereotypes to describe black people in an autobiography he self-published in 2015. So, what does this mean, folks? It means the Republicans are bankrolling RFK. Why? They're bankrolling him as a spoiler to Joe Biden. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to use RFK to pull enough of the right-leaning Democratic voters away from Joe Biden so that they basically sour him, and then in the general, they won't vote for him. RFK has 0% chance of actually getting the Democratic nomination. It's just not going to happen. Anything short of Joe Biden dying of a heart attack is going to... No. RFK is not getting shit. So why are they doing it? Because they're trying to draw voters away from Joe Biden. So that they go, oh, well, I want this guy. And then when it inevitably comes down to it and this guy loses, what ends up happening is all those supporters for RFK will then turn against Joe Biden in the general and be like, well, I wanted RFK, I'm not voting for Biden, blah, blah, blah. And will it be enough? Maybe. But remember, this last election, even though Joe Biden got like 9 million more votes than fucking Donald Trump, because of our ridiculous backwards-ass fucking electoral college system, he really only won that election by somewhere around 40,000 votes in 3 different states. So that's all they really need to tip. All they really need to tip over is a very small number of votes in order to win the election. Even though this next time, I guarantee you, it's going to be Trump versus Biden, and I guarantee you Biden will win the popular vote by a gigantic margin. It was like 8 million votes last time, and it's going to be even more this time. It'll be around 10 to 11 million. I guarantee it. He still potentially could lose the election because some 40,000 votes flip in like Pennsylvania and Georgia. And that's what this is all about. So that's the first thing. That's the first reason why I'm not supporting RFK while I'll never vote for his ass. Because he's basically being run as a spoiler by Republicans. Second reason I'm not voting for this motherfucker is because he's like a major, gigantic anti-vaccine propagandist, essentially. He's been spreading propaganda about vaccines and shit since 2005. He's been promoting the links between, like, propaganda, debunked links between vaccines and autism. You know, that's how the whole anti-vax thing, the modern anti-vax movement, I should say, started in the first place, with some very famous and widespread studies that were proved to be false, that did erroneous links between autism and vaccines, which they're complete 100% bullshit. These studies have been debunked for more than a decade now, and people still fucking believe them. Conspiracy theorists don't give a shit about the truth. They don't. They don't care about the truth at all. They just, whatever lines up with their worldview, that's what they believe. So it doesn't matter how many times you fucking debunk something, people are still going to fucking believe it until the end of time. And that has firmly lodged itself in conspiracy theory mythology now, that vaccines cause autism. And JFK has been pushing that shit more than a decade at this point. He's also claimed that vaccines cause the Spanish flu, Lyme disease, and HIV somehow. And he also has claimed that AIDS is not caused by HIV, but an unhealthy gay lifestyle and amyl nitrates, which are poppers, right? That is a conspiracy theory which is at least 30 years old. Probably as old as AIDS itself. I remember first hearing about that in high school back in the early 90s. I used to listen to KPFK, and they had a guy on there. KPFK is public Pacifica radio in the West Coast. I remember a program way back then, which I can't remember the name of the guy on the program, but he was basically talking about how HIV was caused by a number of factors, and not, or AIDS, excuse me, was not caused by the HIV virus, but by a number of factors, including drug abuse and stuff like that. That's been debunked, wildly debunked. We know for 100% fact that AIDS is caused by HIV. That's not even in question anymore. But once again, conspiracy theories do not die. Conspiracy theories don't die, and this is what fucking RFK believes. He held an event this past January 27th with a woman named Sherry Tenpenny. If you don't know who Sherry Tenpenny is, I am sorry to introduce you to her. She is a insane anti-vax wackaloon who has claimed that the COVID-19 vaccine turns people into living human magnets. And I wish I was making that part up, but I am not. I actually have a video here. A video here of Tenpenny saying this exact same thing. Let's turn this on. This is from Slate. This is from June 27th of this year. RFK to hold event with doctor who says COVID vaccine makes forks stick to your body. GOP invited Ohio doctor Sherry Tenpenny falsely tells Ohio lawmakers COVID-19 test shots magnetize people, create 5G interfaces. Wish I was making this up. This is Sherry Tenpenny right here. Let's listen to what she has to say. This is in front of the Ohio Health Committee. Let's see what she's got to say. Oh my god. Fuck you. Okay, it's making me watch a fucking ad. Alright, everybody go out, buy some margarita mix, you know. Drown your children in it. It's great. Shove it up your ass. All right, there we go. So this
And
is Sherry Tenpenny.
some
this
of the
blonde woman
information
right
that I think had been discussed on your podcast related to EMF frequencies.
That was a thought.
And
it was, because right now
that?
we're all kind of hypothesizing. I mean, what is it that's actually being transmitted that's causing all of these things? Is it a combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it? I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick. Because now we think that there's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've...
Okay, while this is happening, watch this woman right here. This woman in the glasses, like, look at her face. And then look at this guy. This guy's just not buying it over here. He's just like, wow, look at this fucking whack-a-woon. This lady's out of her mind. This woman here is like trying really hard. It's like, I don't know, this could be real. She's got this very grim look on her face here. Anyway, let's listen to this crazy woman rant for a minute.
A combination of the protein, which now we're finding has a metal attached to it. I'm sure you've seen the pictures all over the internet of people who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick. Because now we think that...
And look at this woman right here, lower left. She's not buying this bullshit either. She's got a very sort of like, what the fuck are you talking about look on her face. But anyway.
There's a metal piece to that. There's been people who've long suspected that there was some sort of an interface, yet to be defined, an interface between what's being injected in these shots and all of the 5G towers. Not proven yet, but we're trying to figure out what is it that's being transmitted to these unvaccinated people that are causing health problems.
Now, keep in mind, this isn't just some woman going up in front of a crowd and saying a bunch of bullshit, right? This is the Ohio House Health Committee talking about enacting a law, HB 248, Enact Vaccine Choice and Anti-Discrimination Act. Basically, this was a law saying that you're not allowed to discriminate against people if they don't want to take vaccines, right? Sherry Tenpenny is there talking about how you should allow people to purposely go out and spread a lethal disease that we have a vaccine for. And the reason she's giving is because it turns people into human fucking magnets. And, like, I don't know, gives you sensitivity to 5G towers or some shit. Like, this is the woman that RFK is hanging out with. And he did an event with this woman. Like, he went up on stage with her and talked with her and stuff like that. You know what you do when you do that? That legitimizes this kind of insane rhetoric from progressives and stuff. People like, say, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and why she won't debate Lowen Boebert, right? Or she won't debate Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why won't she? Why won't she go debate those two? Because her official response is that it legitimizes them. It's beneath her to debate Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example. It's beneath her because Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a serious person. She's a fucking clown. And if AOC were to get up on a stage with her, then it legitimizes Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's why, this is another thing why Obama would always ignore people. Like, Barack Obama, whenever he'd have pundits that would talk shit about him and all that, and make up bullshit about him wearing a tan suit or getting the wrong kind of fucking mustard on his sandwich. And he would just, like, ignore all that. It was just like water off a duck's back. Because it legitimizes them if he were to talk shit back. And in some sense, that's true. It's like, this is why you don't debate Nazis, because it legitimizes the Nazi. Because it doesn't lower you to their level. It raises them to your level. And that's why you shouldn't do it. Because fuck them. They don't deserve to be on an equal playing field with you. And that's what RFK is doing by... He's essentially platforming this insane woman who's spreading bullshit about magnetic vaccines, which is demonstrably untrue bullshit. It legitimizes her. It's fucking ridiculous. More shit here about RFK's campaign against fucking vaccines. Here's a couple of quotes from him. As president, all right, I will end all gain of function research. It's just a disaster. It's given us no benefits. It's given us everything from Lyme disease to COVID and many other diseases. RSV, which is one of the biggest killers of children, came out of a vaccine lab. RFK not understanding what gain of function research actually is. What exactly is gain of function research? See, gain of function research got big in the news because Breitbart. That's what it is. Breitbart.com with James O'Keefe. That's what they are, right? That's what I was trying to think of. So basically what it is like James O'Keefe went undercover, supposedly, and got this one guy who works at one of the pharmaceutical companies to sort of talk about gain of function research that they were doing on COVID vaccines. And then they sort of cut it to make it sound like it was something nefarious. Like it was a guy that worked for Pfizer, I think. And what it was is it was like this gay dude who worked at Pfizer, and they sent a reporter to pretend to be gay and like met up with this dude on Tinder, and then they went out for drinks, and then the guy recorded him and started asking him about a gay, like gain of function research. And the dude was just talking about it, and then they cut that footage to make it look like the people at Pfizer were like developing vaccine or developing like more virulent strains of COVID to like release into the public and shit. And that's not what fucking happened at all. It was just basically like banking on people's not knowing what gain of function research is. Like in real life, what it is, it's gain of function is where they basically try to create vaccines for possible strains that are coming later on in the year. So how do you think, right, that they have a flu vaccine every year? Like, how do you think, like, Moderna and Pfizer and all the other pharmaceutical companies, how do they so quickly create a vaccine every year for the flu virus that's out, right? How do they do it? Well, it's from what's called gain of function research. So they basically have strains of the vaccine which are evolving in the lab, and they basically evolve those strains, and then they take the one that most closely resembles the one that's in the wild, and they create a vaccine for it. And they try to predict which one it's going to be that's going to be like the most prevalent one in the coming year, and that's what they make their vaccines for, right? And it's something that they've been doing since vaccines were created. Gain of function, it's not, they make it sound like, oh, gain of function research. Like, they make it sound like, that they're doing it and then releasing the shit into the wild, and that's where COVID came from. And it's 100% complete bullshit. These conspiracy theories, like, they sort of hinge on the general populace's ignorance of how vaccines work and what vaccines are and what actual research is. And you know something? It's effective. You know why? Because people don't care. No one's going to actually go and look up with, like, I had to look it up. I didn't know what gain of function research was, right? And no one's going to do that. No one who's a conspiracy theorist is going to give two shits about what the actual real truth is. They're just going to see whatever fucking stupid bullshit that, that fucking James O'Keefe posted on his ridiculous fucking propaganda site. And they're going to believe that shit 100% hook, line, and sinker because they're fucking morons and they don't give a shit about the truth. They only care about stuff that makes them fucking feel good. They've already come to the conclusion that gain of fucking research is bad or whatever, and that COVID was created in a lab and all this other shit, and they don't actually care about what the actual real goddamn truth is, so don't even bother trying to tell it to them. And RFK is contributing to that. He's contributing to that. Because of people like RFK, hundreds of thousands of people in this country are dead now. People who didn't have to die. Because this asshole is spreading around lies. It's the truth. The absolute truth. Another quote from him: "The medical research on these diseases and vaccine research has actually created some of the worst plagues in our history. Anyone who reads The River will come away pretty much convinced that HIV also came of a vaccine program. There's plenty of evidence on that as well. There is zero evidence that HIV came from a vaccine lab. That's complete 100% grade A bullshit. That's a conspiracy theory that's been around forever. I remember hearing about that in high school as well. When I was 16 years old, people were saying HIV was created in a lab. It's bullshit. There's no proof to it whatsoever. These are fucking folk tales. Folk tales that people fucking made up. Like in the 80s, for fuck's sake. And they still believe them. There's no HIV wasn't created in a goddamn lab. Like, I don't know. That subject would require... We could talk more about that, but that would require a stream in and of itself. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should talk about HIV conspiracy theories, because they're pretty interesting. And they are also, of course, all rooted in homophobia. That's where every single HIV conspiracy theory comes from. Every AIDS conspiracy theory comes from homophobia. So maybe we ought to talk about it. I don't know, maybe next week. But he's spreading this shit around. He also seems, besides the fact that he's bankrolled by Republicans and that he's spreading around antivirus conspiracy theory bullshit, which gets people killed, he also seems to be appealing to the white nationalist crowd. And this is what really gets me, because RFK traditionally has been what you would call pretty... He's got some pretty somewhat progressive stances, especially when it comes to the environment. That's the one thing I do like about RFK, is that he has a very pro-environmental stance. And I wish that other Democrats would take some fucking lessons from him. But I'm not about to vote for the man simply because of one issue, that even though it's my most important issue, I think all this other shit that's bad about him invalidates that, because he very much so seems to be catering to the far, far right in this country, to the sort of Nick Fuentes crowd, right? Case in point, here is a tweet from RFK talking about Secret Service protection. "Since the assassination of my father in 1968, candidates for president are provided Secret Service protection, but not me. Typical turnaround time for pro forma protection requests from presidential candidates is 14 days. After 88 days of no response and several follow-ups by our campaign, the Biden administration just denied our request. Secretary Mayorkas, I have determined that the Secret Service protection for R.F. Kennedy Jr. is not warranted at this time. Our campaign's request included a 67-page report from the world's leading protection firm detailing unique and well-established security and safety risks aside from commonplace death threats." Did you get the dog whistle, folks? Did you hear him catcalling to the far right? 1488. Right there, folks. This is it. Now, those of you who don't know what 1488 means, it is a very loud and clear dog whistle to the white nationalist, white supremacist crowd. The 14, of course, refers to the 14 words, which I don't have them memorized. I need to look them up. These are the 14 words. "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." The 88 stands for Heil Hitler. That's the 1488, and that's why you always see white nationalists using that combination of numbers in their Twitter handles and shit like that. 1488. They always use something like that, or they'll say 88 whatever. They always work those numbers into their names, into their like internet handles and shit like that, because it's a code word basically. It's a dog whistle. And if you're just some normie who has no idea what's going on about any of this shit, you wouldn't see that, and you would just, whatever, right? Now, RFK doesn't strike me as a white nationalist. Okay. He does have some pretty, like I said, like progressive opinions when it comes to certain things, such as the environment and some other things, right? So, where did this come from? Is this one of his staffers that's trying to sabotage him, maybe? Is it one of his staff that's maybe part of the white nationalist part? I don't know. But I will tell you this. I don't know specifically how, but I will tell you this. Anybody running a presidential campaign, running any kind of campaign for any office at all nowadays, knows what 1488 means. All of them. Any political consultants, they know what this shit means. They know what dog whistles are. It's not, if he would have said this in like 2008, then I would probably could believe, yeah, it was just a coincidence. Nowadays, no. Somebody saw that. Because you know that also RFK is not making his own tweets as well. You know that everything that he says and does is being weighed by political consultants. And if it doesn't match up with their plan, it doesn't get said. The only person that tweets willy-nilly is Donald Trump. He's the only one that doesn't give a fuck. Everybody else every other presidential candidate that tweets something that makes a statement of any kind on any social media whatsoever, it's being filtered. It's being filtered through consultants. It's being filtered through staffers. It's all being crafted in order to create a message, to create an image. That's what you do when you run for president. When you run for any office, really, but especially president. Because every single thing you do and say is going to be scrutinized into the utmost detail. So don't tell me that this got by all of his consultants, this got by all of his staffers, this got by every single political strategist that he employs, and none of them saw this dog whistle. Don't fucking tell me that at all. Either he knows what it means or they knows what it means, but somebody fucking knew and someone allowed that shit to get through. I simply refuse to believe that this is just a coincidence. It's like, no. Not anymore. No. A decade ago, yes, I would believe it. Now I don't. So, what does this tell me? Well, the fact that this guy is, like, being bankrolled by Republicans, and he's, like, trying to appeal to the far right of the Democratic Party. So, the Democratic Party is a spectrum, just like the Republican Party is a spectrum as well. It's just shifted far to the right. But even in the Democratic Party, there are conservative Democrats, just the same way that there are liberal Republicans. Conservative Democrats, there's liberal Democrats, there's progressive Democrats, and the far, far right wing of the Democratic Party has plenty of racists in it. It's got plenty of conservatives in it. These are the people that will easily jump to a Republican, and this is what he's trying to appeal to. He's trying to appeal to that wing of the Democratic Party, trying to strip those people away. And like I said at the beginning, I don't think it's for him to win the nomination. I don't think that's his plan at all. At least the people who are bankrolling him, I don't think they think he's going to win the nomination. I think what they're trying to do is peel off enough Democratic voters so that it makes a difference in a swing state, and then Biden loses. That's what I think the plan is, right? But regardless, RFK is endorsing this shit. His name is on the tweet. The buck stops here. Especially when you're a candidate for president, you have to take responsibility for what people say in your name. So you can sit there and you can try to claim, oh, I didn't know, a staffer wrote this, or something like that. Or, the same way that Ron DeSantis has. Like, Ron DeSantis had that fucking Nazi ad. It was an advertisement with fucking Nazi shit in it. We talked about it. It had the sun wheel or whatever, right? And he could sit there and try to claim, oh, a low-level staffer this. I had no idea. Well, your fucking name is on that. your image is used in that. Someone who works for you created that thing and posted it to your official fucking website. So you have to answer for that shit. Okay? Because how the fuck does a Nazi just show up in your campaign staff, get access to your Twitter, create a fucking ad, and then post it, and nobody notices? Nobody knows who that guy is. No, Donald Trump would always say shit like that too. He'd always be like, I don't know who this guy is. He just gets coffee. I've never met him before. And meantime, there's like photos and videos of him hanging out with the guy. You know what I'm saying? No, you take responsibility for shit that's on your social media. So whether Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually posted this shit himself or he had a staffer did it, it doesn't fucking matter. Right? It shouldn't have happened. If a staffer did it, then you shouldn't be hiring fucking Nazis. Alright? If he's not appealing to the Nazis, if there was just like some white supremacist dude who snuck into his campaign somehow, it's like, well, then you need to fucking vet your people better. You know what this tells me? It tells me that if either one of those scenarios is true, RFK Jr. has no business being in the White House. Right? Either he's a white nationalist, or he doesn't fucking vet his people, and he hires white nationalists. Both of those things disqualify him from being president. If you can't even run your own political campaign enough to make sure that white supremacists aren't posting shit on your behalf on Twitter, how the fuck are you gonna run the country? Okay? I'm serious, folks. So yeah, you know something? Fuck RFK. I'll never vote for that motherfucker. If by some miracle he ends up becoming the Democratic nominee, I'm not voting. Because at that point, if it's RFK versus Trump, they are both equally as bad for the country. Equally as bad, in my opinion. And at that point, fuck it. I might as well just move to Canada. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.